is an opportunity to tell my favourite PFIC story. I'll try and do an abridged version. The worst PFIC story I've ever had was, this is, I think, back in the days of the COVID crisis. Took a call from someone, and they opened with, "I'm an accountant." And I was like, "Oh, there's trouble here." The moment someone leaves, "I'm an accountant, I do my own taxes," I know where there's something lurking. And lo and behold, this guy had moved here in the 80s with hundreds of thousands of pounds in a portfolio of PFICs, mutual funds, and had held them for 30 plus years, and had been filing FBARs and 8938s and all that, thinking they were just regular old mutual funds, which they are, but didn't realize they were counted as PFICs. In a conversation with me, it turns out this was now worth over $1 million, and yeah, when he found out that the US would look to tax him as PFICs, and there's no regime that can save you from this. There's no streamlined or anything. He's got to go back to the beginning of these PFICs. He's got to. He was in a state with income tax with tax, so he's going to have highest federal 39.6, whatever it was at the time each year, state capital gains, and then interest in some cases going right back to the 80s. That was the whole of his gains gone.
Brutal.
And it took, within 15 minutes of a conversation with us, and that is this. Yeah, if you're an expat here and you've got means and you don't have advisors, you're just asking for trouble.
Yeah,
you really are.
Not to make a haphazard attempt at a segue here, because I'm sure we'll get to it, but there is also a business case for the IRS, right? In these kind of situations where some of these are so. The IRS would view them as egregious, right? I don't use that word lightly, but where the penalties, the interest, the fees are going to be so lucrative from a tax collection standpoint that there is reason for the IRS to be particularly aggressive in pursuing these types of things. Holly, in the last episode, mentioned something like a pension rollover, where if it wasn't properly reported or if it wasn't done correctly, you're looking at penalties potentially, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there is a reason why the IRS would be more interested in pursuing something like that, especially from a foreign account, than, your kind of bog standard 1040 tax reporter.
In my conversation with Dan Price, an ex-IRS attorney, I asked him, because he's now on the other side, he's now helping taxpayers. And I asked him, looking back on your 19 years of the IRS, is there anything that now you work in with people rather than kind of against them? Is there anything you wish that you had known and that the IRS had known? I'm paraphrasing his answer here from my memory, but he basically was like, the IRS and myself, you kind of take the position, it's the law. You've not filed this return. You should know the law. It's easy to follow the law. You're not following the law, therefore you're in violation of the law, therefore we're going to penalise you. He said, on the other side of this, I realised just how challenging it is for regular people, even regular tax advisors, to keep up with the myriad laws and requirements relating to offshore. So I thought that was very interesting. It reminds me of one of my kids' friends. His dad was an ex-prosecutor, a state prosecutor in New York, so Southern District of New York, so the financial stuff, right? Big department. And now he's on the other side. Now he's a lawyer in-house at JP Morgan. And I said to him, now you're on that side of it, is there anything that you realize that, I wish I'd realized that as a prosecutor? And he said, the volume of emails we get, it makes me realize that stuff can get missed. Whereas when I was a prosecutor, if someone said, I don't remember that email, we never honestly believed them. We're like, how can you not remember? Right, how can you don't get that many emails? And you think, how have people lost careers, lost livelihoods because you didn't believe that they had missed an email? And now you're on the other side of it and you realize that in a big corporate like that, you get hundreds of emails a day. You're like, oh yeah, emails do get lost. Yeah.
It's so hard to balance those two things. But the point stands that you have to take these things seriously. And I know we bang on about it and we'll continue to do that, right? We'll in these episodes and in our content and when we speak with people, but these are easy things to overlook. It is an incredibly complex system, like you say, for regular people, right? For Americans born and bred, to try to juggle two different systems in a lot of cases without the right advice in place or people in place. It's just
it's just not realistic.
It's impossible, right?
It's not realistic, and the repercussions make it not worth it.
Right.
Yes, you can save a couple of grand a year, maybe, but the repercussions of you getting that wrong are extreme. And you're in America, the chances are that you're earning a substantial amount of money, more than you were in the UK. Most people we encounter can afford a couple of grand a year for a good cross-border tax advisor. It's worth it.